Welcome to Mershman Seeds Cup of Joe. On this episode, hear about anthracnose, managing this disease as well as others that show up this time of year. We share more yield results from the West Point show plot and around the southeast Iowa area. Joe explains our new PowerCore Enlist corn, what we pack into it and how it's performing, and find out why the architecture of the plant is important.
Hi, this is Joe. Welcome to Mershman Seeds Cup of Joe. Today we have Avery, Lynn, and Turk, and Lynn's going to lead the discussion.
Today I just wanted to talk a little bit more in detail about a topic I think it's been a couple weeks ago that we discussed, an anthracnose in our corn. And the reason I think it's really important right now, we went and looked at one of our genetic suppliers' plots, and they were doing some testing on some hybrids to see how they fare with that. And I think it's very important because right now we are definitely seeing some anthracnose in a large majority of fields. And what issues that cause for us right now is we'll have some lodging going on, and we're worried about standability as we progress through this harvest season. So saw it on Twitter. I can't remember exactly where it was, but someone had a discussion that right now with this corn, it thinks it's November 5th, not October 5th, and we add some issues like this on top of it. We're asking a lot out of this corn plant as we finish out the year. So with the anthracnose, I'll throw some pictures up for Alex to put on there. We're looking for black lesions on the stalk. This year, we had really good growing conditions locally. Thought maybe we were too good, had some sulfur deficiencies. Looking back in hindsight, actually I think that might have been what we were seeing was anthracnose, because you start to see the top dieback occurs 4 to 6 weeks after pollination, which would be about that same time frame that we saw that going on. So push test right now is very important in your standing corn. Get out there and make sure that you're managing your harvest rotation as we're going through this, because this stuff will buckle, and when it buckles, obviously that's not a very good day for any farmer. So why that's important is because right now beans are in the 9, 10, 11%, so we think we need to go and grab those, but we also can't forget that we have some corn maybe with some stalk integrity issues. So managing harvest workload is very important to make sure that we are taking advantage of both good moisture in beans, and then also to make sure that we're not having any lodging issues in corn and dealing with that.
Yeah, we're one windstorm away from a potential disaster, I guess, is what we're saying here, and we've seen some October, November windstorms in the past, and so I think it is important to at least know where you're going to go if you're combining beans and trying to finish up, where you're going first. After that, it may not be the closest field to where you're finishing beans.
So all that black on your combine is anthracnose spores, basically?
Yeah, and with anthracnose, it's similar to tar spot, where we have to worry about it overwintering into the residue that we have. Corn on corn obviously is going to be an issue on that. Some rotation and tillage could help us if we go to soybeans. But yeah, right now that's when you're going down the road and you see looks like the combine's on fire, but then you don't see any flames, most likely they're in a pretty good infestation of probably both tar spot and anthracnose, because talking with Ben on some of their stuff down in the bay, the early affected tar spot fields are also dealing with anthracnose, which is not uncommon. Once we get one disease, it seems like the whole party likes to jump on board and get in on the fun. So
well, it's a natural progression of breaking down that corn residue too. The fungi have to chew on it to break it down, so it goes back into the soil profile. So
yep. So yeah, we worry about when you bust this open, you're going to see a real shredded pith, and that's part of the reason why this corn's not going to be standing. Essentially, the pith deteriorates to the point where a wind event, or I've seen in cases where just combining that first pass, and then you just start to see the dominoes pull over because they're all holding each other up. So like I said, right now, if you have some time, if you're waiting for maybe your beans to be ready to go out and travel your fields and give it a push test, and make sure that you're being very strategic on how you pick these fields and travel through the end of harvest here.
I don't know if we have any information on if how Xyway helped affect this or not, but I have sneaking suspicion that fields that got Xyway on them are in better shape than the ones that didn't have it.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It would definitely be something to look at. You guys took out the plot. I mean, did you see anything? Well, our plot was treated with Xyway from the planters. Did you see any issues from that?
From the start to the finish, our plot's been, the healthiest it's looked in years, since I've been here for 2 years. But on the Xyway aspect of thing, I had a local farmer here that's a progressive guy, and he did some testing with Xyway, and he saw anywhere between a 7 to 10 bushel yield advantage with his Xyway treatment. And so he did say, it's paying for itself. And so he's really excited about the next year and continuing that investment. So it'll be interesting to see what the data brings for the upcoming years on that product.
If you're not familiar with the term Xyway, that is an insecticide, or pardon me, it is a fungicide that is put on with the planter adjacent to the seed trench. Because it's not something you want to put on the seed as a pop-up because it can affect germination, but will give you protection until tassel time. So it prevents that early set-in of stalk rot and some of their early fungal diseases, and it's a relatively new product from FMC, and we're seeing a lot of farmers looking at it as a way to prevent disease in their corn early, and then of course they put on their fungicide to give the rest of the season protection. So interesting product, something that if you're on corn, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you put a starter fertilizer down, you might as well add that treatment in there, and it gives you season-long protection. So
yeah, but
I've seen the benefit.
Just cannot be put on the seed because it can affect uniform emergence.
Yep.
So speaking of that plot, you guys, you and Dylan took the plot out yesterday.
Yeah.
And some pretty exciting stuff that came out of there. What's some, I guess, quick highlights here? We don't want to take all of Ben's thunder since they're not around.
No, kind of this week and the last week, and I'd say the next 10 days, there's a lot of crops come out. There's a lot of yield reports, and kind of that's what I want to go over. Being the local guy and local guys listening here, we're seeing bean reports. We're seeing our new Mershman PowerCore corn. It's keeping up with all the competitors at the hot to trot hybrids out there. So we're really excited about what we're going to be offering in the next year, and kind of maybe that's what I'm going to hit on. I'll hit on the corn first on local yield results, and then I'll hit on some of the bean varieties so that farmers kind of can be aware of what's coming in the next year.
Can we clarify that PowerCore is a brand new trait, and it has multiple posty options. It's actually called PowerCore Enlist. So obviously it has 2,4-D resistance. It has Liberty Roundup, and also what we call FOPs, or a grass herbicide. So it's one of the most premier products for post-emergence resistance. And then it also has the Herculex and the Double Pro for above ground combination. So very unique, just literally rolling right off the assembly line, and we feel it's a very beneficial trait, but we're more excited about the genetics, and I'll let you.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I'm not on a weed science basis. I'm not promoting it's just a safe assurance on the 4 herbicide programs. If you get into late season pressure and your corn's at 30 inches tall and you're like, oh crap, I got water hemp pressure coming through, you can come in there with Enlist and knock that down. It's a big safety net there. So in our lineup for the next growing season, there's about 3 hybrids that come to my top. My top 3 are probably our 108 day, our 111 day, and then our 113 day. Those 3 are probably my, top 3. And what we're seeing so far is out of a 6 plot average, so within probably a 50-mile radius from West Point, on our 108 day, we've seen a 240 bushel average over those 6 plots. We've had multiple replications and stuff like that, so I'd say it's a pretty consistent average, and so we're really impressed with that 108 day. When it comes to 111 day, we actually had a good amount of volume of that seed last spring, so we were able to get it into farmers' fields here and there and let them get a taste of this new PowerCore Enlist corn. And we had a local farmer down in the Weaver Bottoms on a 40-acre stretch do 263 average. I mean, that's got to get you pretty excited there. We had a farmer over there in Houghton on the 111 day, had 20 acres of it, and it did 267. I mean, so between 60 acres, it did 260 plus, and so we're pretty excited about that 111 day. And then we get into the 113 day. We had that in the 6 plot average as well, and it finished up right at 256 over the 6 plot average. So very, very impressive on those 3 numbers. And as you look into our seed guides, you'll see we have a 114 day and 115 day hybrids as well that we are excited about. For me, I like those 3 hybrids probably a tad better. But the 114 day, they told me, did like a 225 average over, I forget what the size of field is, I don't have it here in my notes, but up in Mount Pleasant, Iowa, our 115 day did 230 over 40 acres. So we're very excited about those corn hybrids and the performance they had this year with how dry we were early on. You guys want to hit on anything about corn before we move into a little bit of beans?
These products also have good test weights and very consistent. They're your traditional hybrids, as opposed to the Stein lineup that we also handle, which is the shorter style. So these are more your traditional hybrids, for wide rows. And, where we recommend the Stein products are in the narrow rows and higher population and, higher management. So they're good general purpose hybrids. What we're excited about is to bring this new trait to the market to you first and ahead of a lot of the folks in the industry. So if you're looking at something brand new, we have it.
And talk to your local dealers or call us in here and we'll get you in line with people. I truly believe when it comes to this premium product, I mean, our price is very intriguing, I think, against some competitors. I think it's going to pay for itself and you're going to be shocked at what you see with the sticker prices.
Corn prices, Joe, you've sent some stuff out that you kind of gather from different people who gather data in the industry, and a bag of corn, it's probably adjusted quite a bit from when you first started selling corn back in the day.
Yeah, it's the traits and the seed treatments and the effort in genetics has really changed things. It used to be a 200 bushel yield you could brag about, but now 200 bushel is kind of the starting point, in the low end, and and we are seeing yields, pushing closer to 300 on the good fields, good management. So there's a lot of stuff that's packed into it, and we didn't even talk about our starting line corn seed treatment, which is following the pattern of our starting line and starting line plus in our soybeans and our wheat. And we'll be making another announcement here soon, and we want Ben here for that to talk about how we've actually improved the starting line for corn by adding an additional fungicide, and we'll talk about that later. But again, by taking the independent approach where we can put different products on it, not just from if we're a chemical company, only from our stable, we can go outside and put a real thoroughbred seed treatment together from many different sources. And we've done that, and we think getting that corn plant off to a uniform start is very, very critical. And the starting line product that we use on our corn is following the pattern of our soybean. So that's an exciting part. But back in the day, this is the way the industry worked. Everyone would sit around until Pioneer set the price. Okay, and Pioneer was the first to break $100 on corn, and everybody thought, "Oh my gosh, nobody's going to buy $100 corn." Well, now $100 won't even prime the pump for what's out there right now. So now it's just changed so much, and farmers have so many choices. These breeding programs are so massive, And so that part's good. There's been a huge investment in corn over the years, and so there's a lot of good products out there and a lot of good companies. But being an independent company, we have the ability to go out and look at everything that's out there, and that's what we tried to do when we brought our products to market, is to come up with products that give farmers good weed control options, because that's important, and then also products that have good test weight and high yield and are consistent. So that's what we're shooting for. Plus, we have the short line hybrids from Stein for those that want to be very trendy, and they're wanting, when Harry Stein developed his hybrids, he was shooting for 400 bushels per acre potential, not 300. Because I remember asking him, I said, well, are your hybrids going to have 300 bushel potential? And he goes, no, they're going to have 400 bushel potential. But it takes a different level of management than what most farmers are used to. So we're glad to sit down with you and talk about all the options on corn. But you should, look at Merschman as an option for corn this first year, particularly with these new PowerCore Enlist hybrids. I think they offer a great opportunity for many advancements that you currently are not getting from your current supplier.
And we've got a great supply.
We have a good supply right now, and production's off, and we know how many bushels we're going to units we're going to have, the whole bit, and we don't sell and substitute like the other companies. We just don't do it. We know right now what our crops is right now. It's harvested. We know how many bushels. We're waiting for quality control tests, and then once we get that, we'll put our supply situation out. And once you order it, our barcode system, we reserve it. Nobody else can have your corn. We can't send it to anybody else. It has to go to you. So the sell and substitute, I wouldn't put up with it. I just absolutely would not put up with it.
I like that. But yeah, but our corn is running off the lines. We've already, talked about it. A lot of people are excited about it. And just this week, the amount of yield results we're getting, the orders are rolling in. So I'm jacked up about it.
Tell us about soybeans.
Soybeans, there we go. Yeah, like you talked, from a 4.0 to a 3.1, everything just seems like it's got jammed up together. Soybean harvest in the next 10 days is going to be, there's going to be a lot of acres out. And so a lot of different hybrid maturities are coming out right now, faster than what we thought. Like you said, that November time, we feel like we're in November, not October. And so I kind of just want to hit on a few our heavy hitters. We have a new 2.9 that's going to come in our lineup, the Cherokee. It was grown just north of here, 20 miles, 30 miles?
30 miles, yep.
And talked to that farmer yesterday, and I said, how's it going in the field? He's like, oh, it could be better. I said, what do you mean? He's like, well, over 76 acres, these new Cherokees are doing 82, and I've already ran out of my bin space. And I'm like, well, that's a good problem to have. He's like, yeah, I guess. And he was trying to get the field harvested before this Hawkeye game tonight. He says, I'm right there on 218. He's like, I don't want to deal with all the fans coming up. So he was pretty excited about that new 2.9 and the overall yield that it's going to bring. And so the Cherokee's going to be a new one in our lineup if it fits in your wheelhouse. That bean won a lot of plots last year, and it's doing its job here this year. In the 3 maturity, we're going to have a new 3.1, the Lincoln 24 3.1, and we had a huge field of that do over 200 acres, did an average of 79 bushels. So we kind of threw a couple seed production fields together and did that. So that's a very, very impressive hybrid. Like last year, it won a lot of plots over there in central Illinois, central Iowa. So it's going to stick in our lineup for probably the next coming years. Then we get into the veterans of our three maturity, the McKinleys. I'll kind of, my parents had it. They loved it. We had it do 86 average over a good amount of acres, so I'm very impressed with that bean. Maybe in Fairfield, Iowa, we caught a little bit more rain than some other people 10 miles south of us, but we were tickled pink of that. Then we get into the Kennedy. Doesn't fail at all. Joe, you had a classmate send you a picture of something, seeing it running over 100 in his field. My local average here had 85 over 120 acres. Then we go into the Monroe. The Monroe is a newer bean that was in the lineup this year, And I think it handled this year's environment very well. And I think any of the farmers that had the Monroe, I've heard just love them. They're a beautiful bean. They're so gorgeous to look at. But then when you get in the combine and harvest them, they yield and make you money. So the Monroe's an exciting one for the next year, and I've had people say double my order on that bean for the next year. So if you had success with it, continue. The Truman is our 3.8. It was a 23 model 3.8. And we told you guys, we told everybody last year, that is a thoroughbred style product. It's meant for that flat black where the water runs to it. And if you look at the environment we had this year, did we have that much rainfall for it being? That bean did its job. Maybe due to the lack of rain we've had, maybe we lost a little bit of that top end yield, honestly. And so people that planted it, maybe they're like, oh, I wasn't as impressed with it. Well, you got to remember, you split your farm up. You don't go whole hog on one hybrid, and so you kind of betting the farm average. And so locally here, we had the Truman and West Point over 45 acres do 81 bushels. I wasn't disappointed with that. There were some varieties that just wowed me a little bit more, but we didn't have the year for the Truman.
To that point, I guess just to go a little bit scientific, we have talked about the architecture of the plants, and this is why that architecture, knowing the architecture of your plant is very, very important. The reason why we think maybe the Trumans lack just a little bit is because locally here, we just didn't catch August and September rainfall. I would even go back to a little bit into July, seeing that we're harvesting them, right now. Most were harvesting a week ahead of schedule. When that plant goes into senescence or goes into or has stress and then goes into senescence, it's going to pull that off of the branch. And we've talked about it before, that's where the Truman makes its money, is on those branches. So we lose that branch yield potential, whereas the Monroe is a mainline bean that puts it all on the main stem. So this is a product of that bean is doing very respectable, but the course of nature, I guess, has dictated that our stress beans are probably going to have a little bit better year than what maybe our more higher running varieties have. And like I said, the Trumans, Joe, you went and looked at a field, Turk, you guys went and looked at a field down in Missouri, and you said it's going to be the highest yielding bean the guy has on the farm and potentially could be the lowest. And I think that's like you said, the risk that we do when we do these different varieties and in conjunction on fields is we catch one rain, that bean locally would be the highest. Would it outrun the Kennedy? Probably.
It'd give it a run for the money.
Yeah, and I think you made a good point, Lynn. When you put your lineup together, look at the architecture of the soybeans. If they're a very bushy bean that makes a yield on the branches, you want to plant some of that for the, so you can have that really 100 bushel potential. And then you also want to temper that with the straight line bean that puts more of the yield on the main stem. So we know all the architectures of our different products, and we can sit down with you and we'll have more about that after harvest on Cup of Joe to talk about these different architectures and how they make yield. The other thing too is not all of the areas are having great yields this year. There's some areas that were just absolutely got no rain in August, and they're still pulling off some 50 bushel yields, which for their environment is tremendous. So these soybeans can be very forgiving, and I know in Northeast Iowa, we're seeing the earlier beans do better because they had enough moisture to finish more so than the later beans. So when you look at your yields, look at your environment. If the early beans are doing better, well, you probably didn't have rains late. If the later beans are doing better, you probably had rains later. And most farmers know that, but we are definitely seeing that in the northern areas where they didn't get rain, that the early beans are, earlier you had, the better. So that maturity thing, architecture, that's the best way to hedge yourself against the weather.
And plant the package. Yep. Plant a range of maturities that fits your needs, and then plant those different varieties. Don't never put all your farm to one variety.
And the other thing too, Turkey, you've always said calendarize your maturity so that right now we're all talking about the low moisture. That means we're leaving yield behind. So if we had planted some earlier beans as one of our hedges against weather, and then the architecture and that whole thing, and we'd be trying to stay up with the beans as they're just starting to mature in a normal fall, and then pick up some yield that way. Because if we got 9% beans versus 13% beans, we lost 4% yield. So
I always ask farmers, how many beans can you combine in a day? That's how many of that variety you should plant, and then stretch them out over the length of time that it takes you to combine your whole crop. And so you just keep adding a day and a day and a day so if it takes you a week to combine, your maturity spread should be 7 points, 2-1 to a 2-8 or whatever.
Yeah, that makes sense. So these are all things that you should consider when you're thinking about it. And it looks like we have got our first germ back and is in the upper 90s. So we think early indications are, unless it starts raining and raining and raining, we should have good seed quality. We're totally capable of handling dry beans today with belts and the equipment we have in our plant. So we're very positive that supplies are going to be good, because you just heard us talk about the yields. I was just telling Ben, you're going to have to cut seed production next year because the yields are so darn high. We don't need all these acres, but supplies are good of all the products that we're mentioning, from the early ones to all the way to the 5.0s almost. We're going to be in good shape. I think we're going to have extra germination again this year, and with the new seed treatments and everything that we're doing, we're gonna put out a really fantastic product for you. And order early and get what you want, and take it. Why wait? Because unless you want to pay more, that's what I say.
I heard Shannon talk about the seed quality this year. He said some of the prettiest beans he's ever seen since he's been here. Perfectly round, all the same size. Just fantastic quality this year.
So that's a preliminary so far. We're probably about halfway through seed harvest, and we're very positive. So farmers have enough things to worry about than to worry about a seed shortage. There's no seed shortage.
Right.
You've taken the limit off, you've said.
Yeah, I've took the limit off. I always tell Lynn that. I go, Lynn, I took the limit off today, and Lynn will look at me and I go, you can sell all you want. So we're in good shape. I know the last couple of years we fought some shortages, particularly in the chemicals and maybe even a little bit in fertilizer, but that's not the case in seed. So if anybody's telling you they're short, you better come to us.
Yeah, those are the highlights of the varieties that are pretty dominant in my area here, and I'm just excited to see what the next 10 days bring for more yield data.
Dirk, you have anything for us?
Markets are still trying to find the harvest low, and I think the way the harvest is going at full bore and not much rain in the forecast, that we very likely will see a harvest low sometime in the next week to 2 weeks at the most. So if you're looking for an opportunity to buy or take a position in the markets, if you're selling off the combine and you want to take a position in the market, we're probably not very far from that opportunity.
Well, farmers have a lot on their plate right now, trying to get it all done and do it efficiently, and then also worry about the markets. So, and then think about next year. So, well, that brings us to a couple corny jokes. Okay, I might need some help from one of you guys. Okay. What's black and white and eats like a horse? What's black and white and eats like a horse? A zebra. Okay. Now, this one here you can tell your kids, okay? This one's good. Now, Avery, I'm going to pick on you, okay?
Right.
It's a knock-knock joke. We haven't done hardly any knock-knock jokes, okay? Knock-knock.
Who's there?
Cows go.
Cows go who?
Silly, cows go moo.
I'm going to have to use that one with my nephews.
Now, I had a couple more that didn't make it to the table. They got censored, but anyhow, we know you're busy, so we won't take any more of your time. We sincerely appreciate your business. We hope your harvest is going smooth. We hope your family is healthy and safe. We'll see you next week.